I'm Jyotsna Kumar. On the show today, a massive oil depot fire near Russia's Black Sea resort of Sochi has been blamed by Moscow on an overnight Ukrainian drone attack. Meanwhile, Russia again bombed a key bridge in Ukraine's southern city of Kherson. And all this comes as U.S. President Trump has set a new deadline where Russia will face severe tariffs targeting its oil and other exports. We'll bring you all the latest details on that front.
While that deadline is fast approaching, from West Asia, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has compared Hamas with the Nazis in the latest. He's accused the group of trying to break Israelis after a second video was released of an emaciated hostage saying he was near death. And this as Palestinians in Gaza are searching for food to stave off hunger. We will bring you all the details on that front as well. Let's start with the headlines. This is World DNA.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu requests help of International Committee of the Red Cross to aid hostages in Gaza as outrage builds at videos showing two of them emaciated. Hamas says it would allow the agency access to hostages if humanitarian corridors for food and aid were opened across all areas of the Strip.
Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him. Find out whether that means it.
Donald Trump says his special envoy Steve Witkoff may travel to Russia this coming week, warns Moscow of more sanctions if it does not agree to a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine before Friday.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah separately call on President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan amid a logjam in the parliament over opposition demand for discussion on the special intensive revision exercise in Bihar, Trump's tariff threat as well.
Six migrant workers from the Indian state of Odisha killed and 8 others sustained injuries in a quarry accident at a construction site in Andhra Pradesh's Bapatla district. Criminal case registered against the quarry management.
New political party formed by protesters who led the anti-government movement last year, rally in Dhaka, pledged to build new Bangladesh amid political uncertainty over next election.
Thousands of supporters of Brazil's ex-president Jair Bolsonaro take to the streets showing support for US President Donald Trump's pressure campaign. President of Brazil Lula da Silva announces the need for caution in discussions with the US regarding tariffs.
We begin with West Asia. Harrowing videos of Israeli hostages held in Gaza have been released, sparking outrage and condemnation.
And there's also a demand for an immediate ceasefire and a hostage deal. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he is shocked by the conditions of the hostages in captivity. The video released by the Islamic Jihad group shows 22-year-old Rom Braslavsky, an Israeli-German national, speaking directly to the camera in tears. visibly emaciated and physically weak. Bruslavsky says he has been a prisoner in Gaza for 2 years, held by the Al-Quds brigades, and says that he is on the verge of death.
Another shows Eviata David in a Gaza tunnel saying he was not eating for days and is digging his own grave. Netanyahu drew parallels between Hamas and the Nazis and said that he is now filled with an even stronger determination to free the hostages. He requested the help of International Committee of the Red Cross to aid hostages in Gaza.
They are starving them like the Nazis starved the Jews. And when I see these videos, I understand exactly what Hamas wants. They do not want a deal. They want to break us using these horror videos. And through the false horror propaganda, it is spreading around the world. But we will not break. I am filled with an even stronger determination to free our hostages, to eliminate Hamas, to ensure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to the state of Israel.
The European Union, France and Germany, they condemned the videos of the hostages and insisted the Palestinian group must have no role in the territory's future. French President Emmanuel Macron called these videos evidence of Hamas' inhumanity without bounds and complete cruelty.
In response, Hamas said that hostages are being given the same food as Gaza's population, adding they will not receive any special privileges. The group said it would only allow the Red Cross to provide aid if humanitarian corridors into Gaza are opened.
On Sunday, 7 military aircraft from Jordan, France, Germany, Belgium and the UAE, they conducted coordinated airdrops over Gaza, delivering more than 60 tons of humanitarian supplies.
This operation is a collaboration between France and Jordan and other many countries, and Jordan is in charge of the delivery of food and supplies that we are delivering to Gaza. So France don't really know, because when it arrives already conditioned and ready to deliver. So we don't have the exact definition of what is in there. French people and French military people are actually making sure that the loads are correctly set up for the drop, but we don't have the exact content. It's just the weight and the basic value of this.
And despite the deliveries, many in Gaza, especially households lacking a strong adult male, say they are struggling to receive food and are starving.
We never get our fair share of the aid. My husband is paralyzed, and there are widows and women like me who can't secure food for their children. Some young men take the aid and sell it at high prices. I am helpless and cannot afford to buy it. I throw myself into danger to bring food to my children. We hope the world ensures a fair distribution mechanism, especially UNRWA and international organizations. Aid should be delivered through text messages so that everyone in need gets their share. Only certain people benefit and resell the aid. We can't afford it. It's unjust.
And a United Nations video shows the aftermath of one food distribution attempt. 7 bodies loaded onto a donkey cart after reportedly being shot while trying to reach aid.
In the past 24 hours, 6 more people, including children, died of starvation or malnutrition, according to the UN, bringing the war's total hunger-related death toll to 175.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined live by Adrian Calamil. He's joining us from New York. He's a fellow at the Arabian Peninsula Institute and an author of forthcoming book on Hezbollah. Adrian, always a pleasure having you. Thanks so much for joining us here on World DNA. Adrian, let me start off with Hamas clearly wants a reaction coming out of Israel. They're using the hostages now, as they have been using as their last cards, to get some kind of a deal. Do you think they're going to get the reaction from Israel to come to the negotiating table, or will Israel continue on the stance that they've had so far?
Great to see you, Siobhan and Jyotsna, and good evening to all your viewers. That's a great question. I don't think it's going to bring the desired outcome that Hamas is looking for. I don't see this moving much past this, because what Hamas is asking for is, if you look at it, what they've really done is kind of weaponized the aid, if you look at it. And that one Palestinian refugee was talking about it, how individuals are coming along and selling it off. And we see lorries coming in that have just been basically hijacked with Hamas gunmen on the top. And they refuse to use the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, because they want their own control mechanisms over the aid that are coming in. So what they've kind of done is drawn this false moral equivalency between the starving of the hostages, and that they're not being treated any worse than the Palestinian people. But the fact is, the Hamas fighters are well fed, and they're holding on to the aid and selling it off and making a profit at the same time.
And that being said, we still have Netanyahu, who has now said that he is now filled with an even stronger determination to free the hostages. What do you think? What do you make of this statement? Do we think that he will take any step towards that?
Oh, that's a great question, Jyotsna. We've seen so many attempts made. I will say attempts, strategies used, trying to move, Hamas, defeat Hamas in one part of Gaza, only to move on to another part, and hoping possibly that the hostages are there. But as we've seen with the one hostage, he's in an underground tunnel. And in any case where we've seen any type of exchanges, it was through some mediated deal where you had hostages exchanged that were either dead or alive, moving over to Israel. And this was very early on. And then we had a couple of commando operations that are very high risk, and you're going to sustain casualties, and that's something that the IDF is wrestling with. And it's also the whole issue of, when the IDF does try to make a, let's say, commando raid to release a hostage here or there, is Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad just going to execute that hostage? So this war, from the very beginning, when they brought the hostages back over to Gaza, it really shaped, it created a really difficult dynamic, and there's just no
Adrian,
other way to say it.
Yeah, Adrian, let me just come in there quickly. We've seen those visuals of Gazans who are the death toll because of malnutrition is increasing by the day. It was 169 till yesterday, it's 175 now. These are the figures that have come out. We really don't know what the actual toll really is. And then on the other side, we're also seeing visuals of these two hostages. Just 20 remain alive. 2 of them are already in this kind of an emaciated state. What is really the end game here? Because people are suffering, the hostages are suffering, Gazans are suffering en masse, but there is completely no bridging ground between Israel and Hamas even now. All world leaders have done whatever they could.
Yeah, there really isn't, and that's kind of where we are. It's Hamas wants to be able to survive where they are, and it's all about survival for them. And for Israel, it's getting the hostages back, which is increasingly seeming very difficult and unlikely. And it's also making sure that Hamas is not able to launch another October 7th years down the road from Gaza, with the Palestinian people getting caught in the middle. It's a horrible situation. Yeah.
True. And there must be an outrage even in Israel. It's because till now, people were fearing that these hostages might die because of the attacks which might happen, but now it's also starvation.
Yeah, it's starvation, it's propaganda. We saw this with one of the earlier hostage exchanges with a young female that was handed over. She came back weighing something like 65, 70 pounds, possibly less, and was executed. So this was intentional. And it was a deliberate message, and it really terrorism. It's not to terrorize the hostage; it's to terrorize the Israeli population, and it's also to create unrest within the Israeli population, within the government as well.
Adrian, thanks so much for joining us here on the show. There seems to be no light at the end of this tunnel, at least even now. That's just what we need to leave it at this point and hope for the best. That was Adrian Calamel joining us on the broadcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Well, moving from West Asia to the Russia-Ukraine war, U.S. President Donald Trump has said that his special envoy Steve Witkoff may travel to Russia this coming week.
Now, Trump also said that Witkoff may travel to Russia potentially on Wednesday or Thursday, as he warned that he would impose sanctions if Moscow does not agree to a ceasefire for Ukraine, and that Trump needs that to happen before Friday. That's now the next deadline given to Russia. Listen to this.
Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions. So we'll see what happens.
The attack comes as things remain tensed on the battlefield. A Ukrainian drone attack sparked a fire at an oil depot in Sochi. It is a Russian resort that hosted the 2014 Winter Olympic, which is 400 kilometers from the Ukrainian border.
The governor of Russia's Krasnodar region confirmed the news. He said drone wreckage hit an oil tank which caused a fire during the nighttime attack.
Now, Kiev has said it will intensify its airstrikes against Russia in response to an increase in Russian attacks on its territory in the recent weeks, which have killed dozens of civilians.
And the Russian Defense Ministry said that meanwhile, 3 Ukrainian drones had been intercepted in the Leningrad region, which includes the Baltic port of St. Petersburg. Overnight strikes by Russia inside Ukraine also left several people injured. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky said that the two sides were preparing a prisoner exchange again that would see 1,200 Ukrainian troops return to Ukraine, of course, and following talks with Russia in Istanbul in July. US President Donald Trump's ultimatum to end the war in Ukraine is set to expire in less than a week now.
And we are already in a superpower showdown. In the latest, Trump has moved 2 nuclear submarines to the waters close to Russia.
Now, Trump's ultimatum to Putin to end the war is set to expire on the 8th of August. That date is fast approaching. And if Russia does not stop its offensive in Ukraine by then, US President has threatened to impose harsh economic sanctions. But the posturing is now going beyond the diplomatic and the economic realm. With the US moving its nuclear submarines close to Russia, nuclear prowess has now come into play.
Now, Trump's maximum pressure and peace through strength tactic is facing a sharp pushback from Moscow. As soon as the deadline was announced, a full-blown social media spat broke out between U.S. President and former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev.
Medvedev accused US of taking a step towards war. And this is a post which came on social media. Russia's former president and Putin's close confidant, Dmitry Medvedev, warned Trump playing the nuclear card. He reminded Trump of Russia's nuclear capabilities, including the dead hand system, which was developed during the Cold War.
Now, Trump was quick to respond. He said, if you talk nuclear, you need to be prepared. And U.S. is prepared. Listen to this.
Well, you just have to read what he said. He was talking about nuclear. When you talk about nuclear, we have to be prepared, and we're totally prepared.
All right, now let's look at how Russia and US compare to each other when it comes to nuclear firepower underwater. The nuclear submarines float in the undisclosed waters, but US and Russia are very close when it comes to underwater nuclear might. The US military operates a total of 71 nuclear submarines, while Russia is close behind with 64.
Well, but in overall naval prowess, U.S. maintains a huge lead. When it comes to aircraft carriers, Russia has only 1, while United States operates 11 aircraft carriers. When it comes to destroyers, the story remains the same. Russia has 10 destroyers, while United States has 81 destroyers at its disposal.
Now, despite this huge gap in the possession of naval assets, the position and the potency is something that plays a crucial part. The United States military, including the Navy, has a vast global presence with over 750 bases in at least 80 countries. And on the other hand, Russia has only a handful of naval bases located overseas.
Russia's nuclear-powered submarine K-329 Belgorod carries Poseidon, which is a nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed AUV designed to create a radioactive tsunami near coastal targets. 3M-22 Zircon is a hypersonic anti-ship cruise missile which is capable of traveling at Mach 9 and potentially carrying a nuclear warhead.
The Russia-US naval showdown goes beyond numbers. With position, power, potency and timing at play, it's hard to predict a clear winner in this potential superpower face-off.
Товарищ Верховно-Главнокомандующий вооруженными силами, в честь вашего прибытия построен.
Now, Trump's tariff trade comes at a time when U.S. is heading towards high-stakes midterm elections.
2026 midterm elections will be a first real political test of Trump's policies. Trump is in the middle of a self-imposed tariff war. Retail giants are passing on the tariff duties to the customers, the American customers that is, with prices on ascendancy and popularity in decline. Donald Trump has very little time to turn this situation around.
Inflation can be a real political threat for a president who promised to lower consumer prices to keep Trump's core voter base intact. U.S. President himself and other White House officials have floated the idea of providing rebate checks to lower-income Americans.
Now, this comes as polls show Trump's much-touted popularity on a downward spiral. Recently released Reuters Ipsos polls showed that his popularity has slumped to 40%, and this is the lowest since he took office.
Now, despite rising concerns, Trump expressed confidence that he has great 6 months in office. Citing the achievements of his government, he pledged to actively campaign in the upcoming midterm elections.
But the Democrats are saying that he is planning to rig the 2026 midterm elections. U.S. Senator for California Adam Schiff lashed out at Republicans for their plans to redraw congressional map of Texas.
He wants to cheat in the 2026 elections. Here is one way how Donald Trump intends to rig those elections against the American people and deprive millions of people of their legitimate votes. In Texas, Donald Trump has been pressuring the legislature and the governor to go into a special session so that they can gerrymander the Texas districts before the midterms.
Republicans are planning to add more Republican voters into Democrat-dominated counties in order to sweep the elections. GOP currently controls 25 of Texas' 38 congressional districts, while Democrats hold 12 of the 38 districts. Adding more Republican voters in these districts could make them politically competitive.
2026 will be the first public referendum on Trump's presidency, and he does not want to leave it to chance. But with a wave of lawsuits against his agenda, trade deals with a handful of countries only so far, looming inflation and cracks in the support base, the road to victory in 2026 midterm elections seems rather tough. And in a moving celebration in Rome, Pope Leo led the Mass at a jubilee of youth, delivering a stirring message of hope, justice and compassion.
Millions of young Catholics were left inspired as emotions ran high among the faithful. Now take a look at these images.
Dear young people, Jesus is the friend who always accompanies us in the formation of our conscience. If you truly want to encounter the risen Lord, then listen to his word, which is the gospel of salvation. Reflect on your way of living. Seek justice in order to build a more humane world. Serve the poor, and so bear witness to the good that we would always like to receive from our neighbors.
I like the new Pope. I'm actually converting, so I'm not Catholic yet. So the Pope gives me really hope for a new future for all people. Seeing him yesterday, being 5 meters from him, he really gives out the energy that is a hope for us all.
It made a really great impression on me. I'm very curious about today's gathering, and I hope that in the coming months and years I can get to know him better. But I have to say, I think he's stirring something in the souls of us young people.
Well, it's time for a very short break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side of World Data, we have lots lined up. Ahead of the resumption of the monsoon session of Parliament, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah met President Draupadi Murmu separately at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Sunday. We'll get you the details on that on the other side.
Also on the other side, tariffs continue to stunt the global growth outlook. The US growth outlook has not recovered from President Donald Trump's Liberation Day shock. More on this and a lot more when World DNA returns. Come right back.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching World DNA with Jyotsna. I'm Shivan. Lots more to discuss. Let's start with the headlines.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister Amit Shah separately called on President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan amid a lok jam in the parliament over opposition demand for discussion on the special intensive revision exercise in Bihar and Trump's tariff threat.
That it is not acceptable for India to continue financing this war by purchasing the oil from Russia.
Despite the Deputy Chief of Staff at the White House, Stephen Miller, says India buying Russian oil unacceptable to US President, highlighting, however, that Trump's relationship with Indian Prime Minister, describing it as tremendous.
Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him. We'll find out whether that means anything.
U.S. President Donald Trump says his special envoy Steve Witkoff may travel to Russia this coming week, warns Moscow of more sanctions if it does not agree to a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine before Friday.
Israeli Prime Minister requests for help of the International Committee of the Red Cross to aid hostages in Gaza as outrage builds at videos showing two of them emaciated. Hamas says it would allow the agency access to hostages if humanitarian corridors for food and aid were opened across all areas of the Strip.
New political party formed by protesters who led the anti-government movement last year, Rally in Dhaka, pledged to build new Bangladesh amid political uncertainty over next election.
Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leaders protest at Times Square, New York. Senior PTI leader and former Deputy Speaker of the Pakistan National Assembly says Pakistanis are fleeing the country, adding that no one wants to live in an open prison.
Oil fell after OPEC Plus agreed to increase production again to increase their market share. That stoked concerns about a global supply glut just as a U.S.-led trade war weighs on world economic growth. Brent edged lower towards $69 a barrel. A day ahead of the resumption of the monsoon session of Parliament, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah met President Draupadi Murmu separately at the Rashtrapati Bhavan on Sunday.
Now, while the reasons for the meetings remain undisclosed, the timing has fueled speculation about possible political developments. Apart from two separate social media posts from the President's official social media handle, details of the meetings remain obscure.
Now, it is important to note that the meetings come against a backdrop of the loggerhead in Parliament over the opposition's demand for a discussion on the special intensive revision exercise in the poll-bound state of Bihar.
Apart from discussions on Operation Sindoor, the Indian Parliament has not seen any major developments unfold since the monsoon session commenced. Amid this, it is also the Indian Prime Minister's first meeting with President Murmu, especially after US President Donald Trump waged a full-scale tariff war against India by declaring 25% tariffs on imports.
For Home Minister Amit Shah, the meeting comes amid heightened security concerns in Jammu and Kashmir, following 3 encounters within a week that led to the deaths of terrorists linked to the Pahalgam attack.
The meetings also came nearly 2 weeks after ex-Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar tendered his resignation on the 21st of July from his chair, citing health reasons. His resignation left a void in the chairmanship of the upper house as well. Six migrant workers from Odisha were killed and 8 others were injured after a granite rock fell on them at a quarry in Andhra Pradesh's Bapatla district.
Now, according to the police, the incident occurred on Sunday morning when 10 to 15 workers were engaged in mining works. They also said that there was no blast or seismic activity. However, water seepage could be one of the reasons the rock gave way, leading to the tragedy.
I am from Odisha and we were working in the quarry. This morning, around 9:30 during drilling, rock fell from above and an accident occurred, injuring people. 16 people were working there. The collector met us and talked to the injured and assured them that all assistance would be provided.
An Odisha government official said that a total of 16 workers were working at the quarry when the rock collapsed, adding that at least 8 migrant workers from Odisha sustained injuries and were undergoing treatment in various hospitals in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has ordered the police to register a criminal case against the quarry management.
Mining activity.
As per the instructions of CM N. Chandrababu Naidu, a criminal case has been registered against the quarry management. A comprehensive investigation will be carried out in coordination with the police and relevant departments. All of them were migrant workers from the state of Odisha. The 8 injured workers are undergoing treatment at GBR Hospital in Narasaraopet. Among them, 1 is critically injured. Each of the deceased workers' families will receive Rs 14 lakh as compensation, which will be provided by the quarry management. The government has also assured that all medical expenses of the injured workers will be borne in full until their complete recovery.
A team of Odisha's Ganjam district has also been dispatched to Bapatla's Balikurava area to bring back the bodies of migrant workers. The bodies of the deceased workers would be handed over to the Odisha team after post-mortem.
Meanwhile, Chief Minister of Odisha, Mohan Charan Majhi, has expressed grief over the incident and announced an ex gratia of Rs 4 lakhs for the next of kin of each deceased.
Now, relentless rain are lashing parts of India, flooding streets and causing severe waterlogging from the capital city, New Delhi, to Patna. Indian cities remain submerged after days of continuous rainfall.
In Delhi, rainfall lashed several parts of the city, bringing relief from humidity but causing waterlogging in key areas. Frequent showers led to traffic disruptions and waterlogging on the major roads.
The water level in Yamuna River has risen to 204.14 meters. This is approaching the warning mark of 204.5 meters. Officials have warned that if the water continues to rise, Delhi could face a potential flood-like situation within the next 24 to 48 hours.
In other parts of northern India, including Jammu and Kashmir's Udhampur district, heavy rainfall caused the collapse of an under-construction footbridge meant to connect the Swena and Narsu blocks. Weekend rains continue to batter the district.
Similarly, parts of Ambala and Haryana are experiencing waterlogging due to recent heavy rainfall. Several areas, including streets and low-lying areas, have been submerged. Incessant rains in parts of Uttar Pradesh have led to a flood-like situation in the state as well. Cities like Prayagraj have witnessed severe waterlogging. People use boats for commuting as the streets remain flooded. People can be seen wading through knee-deep water as rainwater inundated their homes.
The state and national level disaster response forces continue to evacuate the residents of the city. Then in eastern India, residents of Bihar faced similar challenges as rising water levels in River Ganga led to flooding in parts of Patna. Incessant rainfall submerged key roads and low-lying areas across the city. The meteorological department has issued an orange alert urging preparedness for several districts across Bihar. Wary residents are now complaining about the current situation of the city.
Only bridges are being made in Patna. There's no emphasis being laid on the condition of roads. Everything from the junction to the streets is submerged under rainwater. The water is almost knee-deep and in some places it's even waist-deep. The condition is deplorable. Monsoons expose the governments. The Bihar government must look into this. They always promise to improve, but nothing much happens. Please emphasize on improving the conditions.
Well, July was an eventful month to say the least, with stocks and cryptos hitting all-time highs.
Well, but risk assets ended July on the back foot as U.S. President Donald Trump unleashed higher tariffs on most of the world. Now let's take a look at WION's global markets and economic health check to see what happened during July.
Crude surged once again, rising 7.4% in July. Still, the oil market saw some cooling on increased production by the OPEC Plus group led by Saudi Arabia. The volatility, though, was evident from differing bets on US President Donald Trump's tariff headlines almost every other day through the month. Bitcoin gained nearly 9%, making it one of the best performing assets despite some easing towards the end of the month after hitting a new all-time high of above $123,000. Then gold also gained ground in July on rate cuts bets. Bullion rose over 1% last month. The dollar saw the biggest reversal, gaining 3.4% on Trump's tariffs rhetoric.
Moving on to Asia-Pacific stock markets, China's main stock index led the gains in the region with a 3.7% surge. The U.S.-China trade truce kept investors betting on Chinese stocks through the month. Australia's stock index and Japan's Nikkei made prominent gains. However, Indian stocks were the only laggard in Asia. Indian stocks closed July with losses of 3.4%, reflecting signs of the pull and push in the trade war talks.
Now, in the Americas, Wall Street extended the bull run from April lows, with benchmarks hitting multiple record highs through July. The S&P 500 gained over 2% to close above 6,300 points for the first time ever. And that comes after the benchmark index gained about 5% in April, marking its best May since 1990. The tech-heavy Nasdaq surged even more. Nasdaq soared 3.7%, extending the nearly 16% surge in April and May. And that rally was driven largely by solid earnings. Canadian stocks also ended July with gains, while the Brazilian equity index ended the month deep in the red. The 4.2% loss in Brazilian stocks reflected the tariffs hit to the economy.
Across the Atlantic, European stocks surged in July. Benchmarks across the region closed in the green. UK's FTSE led the gains, closing 4.2% higher. German DAX gained nearly 1%, and the French CAC rose 1.4%. The South African stock index added 2.2%, in addition to the 3% rise in June.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the overall economic outlook. Let's look at the Asia-Pacific region to begin with. Trump's trade war worries have weighed on the outlook for global economies. In Asia, India is still expected to be the fastest growing major economy in the world. However, a standoff with the US on the tariffs of 25% levied on India is likely to weigh on India's growth. The outlook for the rest of Asia remained negative. For China, the outlook is still mired in doubts from the recession in its real estate crisis. However, the latest trade truce with the US, well, that gives some good signs for the economy as reflecting in a rebound in manufacturing activity. The economic outlook for Japan and Aussie mirrored worries from Trump's trade war.
In the Americas, the economic outlook for the US, Canada, Brazil, and Argentina shows trade tariffs are likely to hurt economic growth. For the U.S. economy, stagflation bets are still weighing on sentiment and the outlook. The biggest data revision since the pandemic for U.S. jobs is now increasing bets for the Fed to cut rates in September. However, complicating the Fed's job tariffs are starting to show up in inflation. U.S. tariffs have surged to nearly 20% from about 2% before Trump took office in January. The economic activity expectations for Canada, Brazil, and Argentina were also cut.
And on the other side of the Atlantic, the negative outlook seems to be more widespread. The expectations show the clouds are darkening again for the UK and other European economies. The trade deals agreed with the US point to more pain, and those worries continue to cloud the outlook for the region. The story wasn't very different for African economies, where the outlook remains negative.
Well, tariffs are already stunting the global growth outlook.
Well, the US growth outlook has not recovered from President Donald Trump's Liberation Day shock. The damage to the global economy from American protectionism is becoming increasingly evident, and that even as financial markets seem to have decided they can live with it. Wall Street economists have nudged their forecasts for the US a little higher in recent months, and they have also dialed back recession warnings that peaked amid the market turmoil in April. But the consensus is still for a slowdown rather than a takeoff.
Despite the president's new trade deals, U.S. protectionism is slowing investment and rewiring supply chains at the expense of the global economy. The International Monetary Fund, in its latest projections report, said that the world's precarious trade backdrop is hurting the growth outlook. The overall U.S. tariff level is now the highest since 1930s.
On average, US tariffs are nearing 20%, about 10 times what they were when Trump took office at the start of this year. The tariffs are coming as companies freeze capital spending. Businesses are rerouting supply chains that took years to establish and trimming margins to absorb the shock of rising costs. From Japanese auto firms to US tomato growers and Vietnamese sportswear plants, tariffs under Trump's America First rhetoric are proving a blunt weapon. Bloomberg Economics pegs the hit to the world economy at $2 trillion by the end of 2027 relative to its pre-trade war path.
Well, in consumer spending, the trend in 2025 has been a noticeable flattening after strong post-pandemic gains. Households worry about the impact of tariff-induced price hikes as well as a cooling job market. Business investment forecasts are also lower after Trump's tariffs.
A dormant volcano in Kamchatka has erupted for the first time in 600 years.
And this is the second volcano to erupt in the region after a huge earthquake that rocked Russia's far east and triggered tsunami warnings last week.
Pictures released by Russian state media show a towering plume of ash spewing from the Krashenikov volcano. Kamchatka's Ministry of Emergency Situations said in a post on Telegram that the plume is estimated to have reached an altitude of 6,000 meters. The volcano has been assigned an orange aviation hazard code, and the ministry added, meaning flights in the area may be disrupted.
It came after Quarry, another volcano in the region, the highest active in Europe and Asia, erupted on Wednesday. The eruptions of the volcano are quite common, with at least 18 occurring since 2000, according to the Global Volcanism Program, that is. Well, both recent eruptions followed one of the strongest earthquakes ever recorded, which struck on Wednesday, sparking tsunami warnings and evacuations of millions of people from coastal areas from Japan to Hawaii to Ecuador.
The worst damage was seen in Russia, where a tsunami crashed through the port of Severodvinsk and submerged a fishing plant. The magnitude 8.8 quake struck off Petropavlovsk on Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula and was the strongest since 2011, when a magnitude 9.1 quake off Japan caused a tsunami that killed more than 15,000 people in that year.
Well, meanwhile, a 7 magnitude earthquake hit the nearby Kuril Islands on Sunday. The nation's Ministry for Emergency Services said tsunami waves were possible in the areas of Kamchatka after the latest tremors. The ministry said on Telegram messaging app that after the latest seismic activity in the area, the expected wave heights are low, but they warned that the people must still move away from the shore. The Pacific Tsunami Warning System, which gauged the quake at magnitude 7, said, however, there was no tsunami warning after the quake. And while the fifth and final test at the Oval is headed for a nail-biting finish.
England, chasing 374 to win, ended day 4 on 339 for 6, just 35 runs shy, with all results still possible. Harry Brook and Joe Root starred in a stunning counter-attack before bad light halted play early.
What started as a steep chase became a baseball masterclass at the Oval. Harry Brook smashed 111 off just 91 balls, while Joe Root held firm with a classy 105. Their 195-run partnership put India on the back foot and had England in full control. But a crucial moment came early in Brook's innings when Mohammad Siraj took the catch at deep mid-wicket but stepped on the boundary rope. Instead of a breakthrough, it went for 6 and Brook made India pay. Just when England looked set to cruise home, India struck back. Prasidh Krishna broke the partnership by dismissing Root and Akashdeep, followed with a sharp spell to remove the Brook.
The old ball started to grip and India's fielders raised the intensity. England still reached 339 for 6 but lost momentum as bad light and rain ended play early. England are leading the series as of now 2-1. And in the world of cinema, the box office race is a thrilling and ever-changing spectacle. This week, we're seeing a diverse mix of triumphs and stumbles.
Marvel's latest entry into the MCU, the Fantastic Four: First Steps, has maintained its lead at the domestic box office for a second consecutive weekend, but its performance has been far from stellar. The film saw a significant 66% drop in its second weekend. Globally, the film has now crossed approximately $369 million.
That's not really something I say.
And James Gunn's Superman continues its successful run at the global box office. The movie has now surpassed the $550 million mark. The film's strong performance establishes a new chapter for the DC universe.
Universal Pictures' dinosaur saga Jurassic World Rebirth is proving to be a box office titan. The film has now crossed over $750 million mark globally, with an estimated worldwide total of $766 million. The film's success is expected to continue as it has yet to open in Japan, which is a key market that can push its final tally well over the $850 million mark.
And meanwhile, among the recent Hindi film releases, the highly anticipated sequel Dhadak 2 Starring Siddhant Chaturvedi and Tripti Dimri, has witnessed a modest opening weekend at the box office. The film, which opened on the 1st of August, has collected an estimated $1.4 million globally over its first 3 days.
Meanwhile, Mohit Suri's romantic musical drama Sayara has solidified its position as a blockbuster. The film, starring newcomers Ahan Pandey and Aneet, has now crossed the impressive global milestone of $50 million. In its third week, the film's worldwide gross stands at approximately $51.3 million.
And Anurag Basu's relationship drama Metro In Dino has wrapped up its theatrical run with a final worldwide collection of approximately $8.3 million. While not a massive blockbuster, the film has been considered a commercial success given its production budget.
All right, with that, we call a wrap to World DNA. But before we go, here's a look at all the climate stories making headlines across the world. Thanks for joining in. Keep watching Beyond What Is Fun.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions.